Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com, and I am happy to welcome some guests for today's event. Andrew Scarborough, Product Marketing Manager at Bottomline Technologies, and Andy Lilly is a Regional Director for Financial Document Automation at Bottomline Technologies. We're glad to have them both with us today. And as we get started, please know that you in the audience can add your feedback today. You can ask questions using the Q&A block that you should see to the right side of the webcast panel. There will also be a couple of poll questions to look out for throughout today's event, so do be on the lookout for those. I know our speakers would like to learn about your interests and experiences. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome Andrew Scarborough to start things off.
Thank you, Jason, and good afternoon, good morning, everybody, and thank you for your time for attending today as we run through this session, which is Precision Document Delivery and Insight for Microsoft Dynamics users. I'm Andy Lilly, Regional Director for the Financial Document Automation business for the European region of our Bottomline and part of the executive group of the business. I'll be hosting part of the presentation and handing over to my colleague Andrew Scarborough for the second half as we run through. Our agenda today is quite straightforward. Sorry, just checking as we click the mouse through there. So our intention is to explain to you where we see and what our customers share with you, some of what our customers are telling us about some of their challenges that they have running through today. So hopefully we'll help define some of the problems and challenges that our customers are facing us, the impact on their business from that, and how we are helping to solve those problems and improve efficiency and visibility within their businesses and ultimately improve their financial processes in their organization. We'll take a little bit of time to show you some of that solution, but hopefully today will be largely about business practices and some of that interaction that takes place as we go forward. I'll explain at the end a little bit more about our organization for those of you that aren't aware of us and aren't familiar with us, but we'll put that to the back of the session. Probably the only thing that I would say at the front of this is our heritage, our business for many, many years has always centered around the financial transactions, the payments and collections and cash allocation within finance departments, within businesses and with the collaborative solutions of suppliers and customers. What we do as an organization is help with those transactions, but also help with the business processes that sit up front and after those as they go. So moving on a little into the problem that people see. I think the first thing that we talk about when we talk to our customers, when we talk at seminars or wherever we are, is the importance of financial transactions and the documents within them. For us, that document, whether that be an invoice, a statement, a remittance, a purchase order, it's not just a document, and it may be a piece of paper, it may be a PDF that's sent via email, but we don't think of those as a document. We think of those as a financial transaction. And what we're here to talk to you today about is how do you unlock ultimately the money, the value, the need that's contained within those documents. So when you think about it, a document is simply, it's a request. It's asking somebody to do something. If you send an invoice, you're asking somebody to pay you for the goods, for the services that they've had. Or it's an instruction. You send a picking note down to your warehouse to ship goods, to pick goods to ship or to hit your manufacturing process to run through. So you're telling somebody to do something. Or it's information. It's a statement. It's a remittance advice. I'm telling you that I've paid you. I'm trying to give you that information so that you can reconcile your books, you can reconcile your bank statement against what you're trying to do. So whether it be a purchase order that's essential for you acquiring the goods that you want to sell or for you to manufacture, whether it's an invoice where you're requesting payment for your goods or services sold, these documents are an essential part of your business. If your supplier hasn't received that purchase order, they're not sending you the goods, you can't manufacture what you want to manufacture, you can't fulfill your sales commitments, you can't get paid, your business grinds to a halt. The same way with an invoice. If that doesn't get received by your customers, quite frankly, they're not going to pay you. They don't know that you need to pay. So the importance of those documents, they're not just a piece of paper that we're creating for the fun of them. They're an important instrumental part of everything that you're doing within your organization. So Jason mentioned the polling questions. We're going to be a little bit obvious there and put them in the slide as well. So just starting off, I'd be really interested to know for those on the webinar today, which of these documents are important in your business. Just take a second there to let you get on that, and we'll keep running as we go. So as I continue to talk, please feel free to continue to click the buttons on there and provide that feedback. So for many, many years now, Bottomline have been helping customers effectively in the left-hand side of the slide that's on the screen there. For document output management, we work very closely. We appreciate most people on the webinar today have invested heavily in their ERP systems with Microsoft, whether that be Great Plains, Navision, AX, part of the Dynamics family, CRM, whatever that is. You know, that is the system that is your system of record, your control, your business, that's driving your financial transactions. We've always sat complementary to that and helping organizations to take the output from that, deal with the formatting of that. Many businesses today, the chief marketing officer is responsible for what does an invoice look like because it's a representation of the business. So we've helped organizations with the output of that, the design of that, the extraction of data from the ERP, whether you want to email, fax or print that, whether you want to store that in SharePoint or in a separate repository. Creating and managing those in-flight, in-transaction documents has been the heart of our business. We've got over 4,500 customers around the globe that we've helped them do that with. What we're seeing in today's world, and you know, we're all very visible in this world. You know, Microsoft are heavily driving the change in organizations to the cloud, to Azure, to off-site premises, along with what we're seeing in the consumer world of mobile devices, anytime, anywhere, any device, any operating system. That world is changing, and the problem today for many of our customers, it's great, I send these documents out via email, but I've got no idea what's happened. I may know that the email's been delivered, but that collaborative experience of joining those together with your customers and suppliers just has zero visibility. I can see an email's been delivered at best, but have they opened it? Have they interacted with it? Have they looked at the document? Are they doing anything with that document? And that is the area that we're excited to be looking at and help our customers solve, to provide that visibility and insight once they're outside of your four walls, to provide you and your customers and suppliers a much more collaborative approach to ultimately wanting to do good business together as efficiently and as automated as possible, to allow your business to focus on what the real importance is, which is growing your organization, increasing your sales, improving profitability, etc., etc. So with that, we click through to the second polling question. I mentioned there about the importance of the paper to electronic journey. A lot of customers are emailing documents today. Some are still paper-based. I'd be really keen to just understand at a high level just where people on the call today are in terms of that transition to documents going through email.
We'll give about 5 more seconds to make a selection on this one. All right. So those results are compiling, but I can tell you it's fairly well distributed. 10%, 10 to 24%, 25 to 29, and that's all the results are sort of distributed through those 4 options. And actually, a couple votes for 50%. Yeah.
Okay. I think what we see more and more is wherever organizations are on that journey, they're all driving towards more and more electronic. You know, the benefits of not printing pieces of paper, the costs of piece of paper, the effects on the environment are obvious and very well documented from that. So just moving through the impact of that on our business, and with this I'll hand over to my colleague Andrew Scarborough to run this part of the session.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. So we've talked about creating your documents and what the impact of having no visibility of whether they've been delivered could be on your business. And what we'd kind of like to do for the next part of this webinar is just to take that example and apply it to a real-life business case. And then probably the most obvious one that I'm sure will resonate with all of you is accounts receivable, the process of collecting cash from your customers. And we've done some research behind this, looking at the types of payment terms customers have, how long it takes customers, suppliers like yourself, to get paid, and the reasons why typically they don't get paid. And looking across Europe, we see that if you take a simple invoice, then 80% of those invoices are usually due on a payment terms of 30 days. And then if you look at the, sorry, a second, the slide's not filled in. So if you look at the actual average DSO for a listed company, that stands currently at 56 days. So it takes 30 days of your terms, and 56 days is what a publicly listed company is taking to get paid. And actually for an SME, it's much higher. So that's 72 days is the average time to get paid for an invoice. So anything between 2 and 2.5 times it's taking for companies to get paid. So we can see that getting paid on time is a persistent problem. It's been there for a long time, and it continues to be a problem for many companies. And actually the trends are showing that is actually getting worse. Even with all the instruments we have for improving cash collection, such as direct debits, the trend is that the DSO is still rising. What's really, really surprising is that when we talk to people about the reasons they don't pay their invoice on time, surprisingly 11% of people say they don't pay an invoice because they never received it. And of course there could be customers who generally never received it, or those customers that use that as an excuse to not pay. But that to me just feels like a problem that can be easily solved. And talking to some colleagues the other day, the way they describe this is you've done all this hard work to get to that invoice. So you've been through the sales process with your customers, you've built your product, or you've delivered your service, you've created your order, you've managed all of that. You get to the invoice, you might as well just chuck it in the bin. If it's not getting through to that end recipient, then you've just lost a lot of the good work you've done up front. And just to follow that, so for the rest of the 89%, you also have no visibility into whether what they've done with that document once it's been delivered. So have they received it? Have they ignored it? Have they put it into a folder in Outlook? What are they actually going to do that, and how can you see what's going on at their side? And as a supplier, you are actually incapable of proving otherwise. So do you have the systems in place to see whether the email has been delivered, or whether it's been actioned on, or the exceptions around that? So if it hasn't been delivered, why hasn't it been delivered? Or if it's received, what has the customer done with it? Or if you're 25 days into a 30-day cycle and it's not been viewed, printed, or downloaded, that should be a call to action for your company to do something with. Okay. And just having a quick look at the way companies deal with that situation. So there seems to be two different approaches companies take towards collecting their cash. The first is a very passive approach. So you kind of send out your invoice, you leave it, and you wait till you get paid, or you wait till you don't get paid. Then you start to think, right, what's going on here? And you ring up your customer, you talk to them, they'll say, well, I never got the invoice in the first place. At that point, you're into sending them a copy invoice, finding your invoice, recreating it, sending it to them, and the cash cycle starts again. The problem with this is you're only dealing with those exceptions late in the collection cycle, and it's increasing your DSO, and it means your debt's increasing and the costs associated with that are going up at the same time. The other way of dealing with it is a kind of more aggressive approach where you are taking each invoice, you're following up with the customer, did you get it, calling them, which is, it's providing scrutiny, but at the same time it's quite an inefficient use of your time. You want to be focusing on the more pressing problems, which are resolving disputes and getting paid for those invoices that are generally have a problem with them. And actually, looking at Bottomline as a company, interestingly, we kind of fall between both. So our European business tends to have a higher volume of invoices with a lower value, and we've taken a more passive approach to this. But our North American business has a lower volume of invoices, but typically higher value, and they adopt a more aggressive approach. For example, flagging every invoice over $10,000 and manually following that up with their customers. So just looking at how we can approach that. So looking at cash collection and the different steps involved in cash collection, we've kind of grouped this into 3 areas. So the first area is kind of that due diligence. So before you deal with a customer, obviously you might be looking at Experian or CreditSafe or Dun & Bradstreet. What does the credit score look like of that customer, and how are they rated by the credit agencies? You could also be looking at external information such as their accounts or the list of directors, and any county court judgments they have against them. You'll also want to look at your own financial history with that customer. Are there any open invoices? What does their payment history look like? And also, what do their contracts look like, and what payment terms should we extend to them? At the other end of the scale is where you're past the agreed terms with your customer, and you're into that chasing process. So you're running your age debt report every day, you're chasing up your high value, oldest customers normally, oldest invoices, creating collections notes, doing all the administration that evolves around that, whether it's printing a monthly statement, running your dunning letters, calling up customers, working internally within people to try and resolve those. The third step, which we wanted to just talk about today in the context of document delivery, is this kind of proactive stage. So you've got to the point where you created your invoice and now you've sent them out. And here we call this proactive. So if you think this through, we're sending out our invoice, we're presenting it online, and we're collaborating with customers so that you've got the best chance of being paid. But at this point, we want to make sure that those invoices are delivered. All of them are delivered so that you've got every best chance of being paid and not finding out later in the cash collection cycle that they haven't been delivered. Traceability, we want to make sure that not only has it been delivered to the customer, but they're doing the right thing with it. So obviously they'll be printing it, downloading it, saving it to their PC, and then going through the accounts payable process to make sure that it's improved and ready for payment. And we want to make sure that that's done within a reasonable time. Again, if you're 25 days into a cash collection cycle and someone hasn't touched that invoice, that seems to me like a call to the customer to say, we think there's an issue here, have you had the invoice? Maybe you might start thinking about processing it from there. We also want to keep an audit of that. So quite often customers will call up and say, oh, actually, no, I never got the invoice. Well, we can provide visibility and insight into that. So we keep a sort of record of every interaction that happens with that document as we send them out. And that can help guide your conversations with your customers. So they claim they never received it. Well, actually, we have a an audit trail here that shows you did get the document and someone printed it out on your side. And that, we feel, just helps with the conversation, and you know, them knowing that you can see that should increase your chances of getting paid. Also, through this process of being able to see documents and any exceptions, we can also then start to see what cash could be at risk of being paid late or possibly never paid at all, and that's useful to your financial controllers, your directors who are looking at their cash flow and thinking about what might come in or might not come in and the effect that it might have on your business. So this is where we're focused, this whole kind of proactive thing, trying to be more proactive, less passive, and really trying to adopt some of the good things about the aggressive approach, but in a more efficient way. So again here, think about this scenario. What if you could have that clear line of sight into your invoices? What if you could see, actually I can see all the issues that may happen, the undelivered invoices, the documents where we've sent them out and there may be a warning message to say someone's out of the office. What if you could prioritize that by value, so you can not just see the exceptions, but you can prioritize them to focus your calling efforts? And what if you could do that in such a way that you can actually then improve your DSO, maximize your cash position, and doing it in a slightly different way to what you've been doing normally? Okay, and this is what someone has been talking about here is the solution that Bottomline can provide. We call it PTX Connect. It sits in between your ERP application, the document processing, and your customers. So for your customers and suppliers, this is a simple and easy to adopt portal. They get sent the documents on email. There's a link in that email. They click on it and they're taken straight to the PDF. It's then their choice whether they want to register for the service and have access to those documents all the time. Just to take that point for a second, the ability to have an online access to those documents can be incredibly powerful. Time and time we hear again from cash collection or credit control departments, they get question after call after call after call saying, can I have a copy of this invoice? Well, if you can sort out all of those by providing online access to those documents, that should focus your teams on more value-added activities such as chasing up your invoices. For you, as a Dynamics user, having created your documents, whether it's SSRS or a third-party document output management solution, you can send them through PTX Connect, and this is where it starts to provide that visibility I've been talking about to your invoices. And we'll show you what that looks like in a second. Okay, so I'm going to switch now. I'm going to log into PTX and I'm going to show you some of the features. We won't spend long on this, but I want to show you some of the key features we've been talking about. One second. So I'm going to go back here. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen. And I'm now going to...
We do see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So I'm now going to log into PTX Connect. This is a web solution. It's hosted by Bottomline at the data center, and we of course have all the normal security and control around that, and the business continuity in place in case for whatever reason we have to go to a second site. So what you can see here is PTX Connect. I'm actually logged into Outbox, which is where, as a sender, you will spend most of your time. And in that Outbox, so thinking that you've created your document in AX or Navision or GP, and you've then sent it to PTX Connect, this is where the documents appear. And you can see in here I've got sample remittance advices, invoices, credit notes, and so forth. And if we come into here and just take a particular one, I'll just click on there and you can see the invoice example that I've got here. This is a PDF invoice, just so you know. So when we send it, you get the link, customers see this on the screen, and then they can download that as a PDF. You'll also see, so this is the invoice, and If I scroll to the right-hand side of the screen, apologies, 1 second. Okay, so and to the right-hand side of the screen, so we've created our documents, they're in PTX Connect, we're sending them out. The moment you send those out, we can start to see the status of those documents. So which documents have been delivered, any ones that have been failed, or viewed, printed, or downloaded, and we classify those as action documents. What I'm going to do now is actually, if I show you the summary at the top of the screen, this is where we can really start to see a better picture of all of those documents. And I can filter here using, for example, the type, so I could say, show me all invoices and the status of those documents. So going from left to right, you can see here we have 4 documents in this outbox. 2 of them have failed, so there's £75,000 worth of invoices that actually haven't got to the customer. Andy earlier talked about unlocking the value in your documents. What we're doing here is we're not just showing the number of documents that failed, but also the value of those. And really that's a call to action. It's a call to say, look, you've got £75,000 on there. You can deal with this today, or you can wait 30 or 45 days and find out that hasn't got there. So you're not going to get paid for those. If we go to the right, warning is where they've been delivered, but there's some kind of message that's come back from the recipient's mail server. And typically that is an out of office, or I'm on maternity leave, something that your team needs to look at and decide decide what action to take. And that could be moving the status simply to delivered because they're out of the office today, for a day, or for example, if they're on maternity leave, you'd want to call them up and maybe resend the invoice to a different person. The delivered invoices, these represent documents that have been sent out that we know have actually got to the recipient. And slight difference here between email that just simply tells you they've been sent. PTX Connect will interpret a message that comes back from the recipient's mail server to actually, if you like, say, yes, I got that document. Thirdly, the last status is actioned. An actioned means, yes, they've been delivered, the person has clicked on the link within the email, and they've printed it or downloaded it. And when that happens, it moves from the delivered status into the action status. And of course, thinking back to that cash collection cycle, it's those, so day one, you want to obviously make sure that those documents have been delivered, but later in the cycle, you want to make sure they've also been actioned. And using PTX Connect, you can also see what that looks like, how many days it's been since the document was delivered but not actioned. I'm showing you here the outbox, but now for a different view on this, I can switch to the insights, and this is like a data visualization module. So any of the criteria here I can change, and it will show these graphs, which you can then drill down to filter the outbox accordingly. So you can see here on the left-hand side we have outbox activity, and this is a snapshot of everything that's in that outbox. So I can again filter by different document types. I can say, show me all invoices created in the last 7 days, and what does the status of those look like. Moving to the right, we've got a little bit more focus on documents we feel are at risk. So if it's an invoice, maybe that won't be paid. 3 things here, a warning, so any invoices that have been sent out where a message has come back that needs to be looked at. Any that have been failed, so here we have £75,000 of invoices that you're not going to get paid for unless you resolve. And thirdly, this concept of it's been delivered, but how it's also idle, it's not being actioned, and I can change this here to say, show me a document that's been delivered, but it's been sitting there for a couple of days and no one's done anything with it. And again, by clicking through this, it'll take me to the outbox grid and filter those documents so that you can then focus that on your calling. Thirdly, we have a scorecard here that looks at the document itself and the time it's taking for that document to get actioned. So again, we can look at our invoices and we can see here, these are the documents that have been created in the last month, and the time that it's taken. So all of the chart you can see here, these have been actioned in less than 1 day. And this allows you to start looking across your customers to see what their behaviors are like, which ones are responding fast, which ones are acting quickly, and you may compare that with their payment status in your ERP system. So you could be looking for customers that A, don't pay on time, and B, that are never very responsive to the documents you take out. Andy talked earlier about this whole concept of using your data to make better decisions. Well, if you can see that a customer never actions their invoice and never pays on time, you may want to have a discussion about changing their terms, maybe paying a larger deposit or putting them on direct debit. And just to show, so again, I can click through any one of these scorecards, and I can see the filtered status of those documents, and then I can come into here, click into it, and see what's happened with it. Again, so let's just have a look at one of these documents that I've filtered. If I click into the failed status here, I can see a history, so an audit trail of everything that happened here. In this example, it's very simple. It shows the document was created, and it failed to deliver that document as no email address was provided. This audit history for a delivered document could be it sent out, it created, the recipient clicked on the link, they viewed it, they printed it, etc., etc. So it captures every action and interaction with that document. Okay, and let's just say we also want to actually action those documents. Well, I can come in here now, I can click resolve, and it gives me different options. How do I want to deal with that? Maybe there's a typo in the email address and we want to quickly get it sent out. I can click change email address here and send it out straight away again. Obviously you'd need to come back into AX or NAV or GP and change that email address so that next time you send them an invoice it doesn't happen again. But this is just a quick way of getting that document out to prevent any late payment or non-payment of that invoice. Maybe you don't actually know. Maybe you haven't got time to call up and find out why that document didn't get there. Here you can print and send that manually, and if by doing that, PTX Connect will create a PDF on screen that you can print to your local printer. Or if it's a warning message, maybe actually you're comfortable with the fact that someone's out of the office for a day, so you can just mark it as delivered and move it and then focus on the other exceptions. So that's what PTX Connect is. It does work with your NAV solution or your GP or AX, whether you're doing that using Report Writer or SSRS or a document output management product such as Precision Forms, which Bottomline provides. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to the deck here. Let's move on. So again, just taking a break here to talk about the next polling question, just to find out a little bit about what types of issues are most important to you as a company. We've sort of talked to lots and lots of companies about PTX Connect. We see different responses every time we talk to customers. Some really like the collaboration, the ability to sort of talk one-on-one with their customers through PTX Connect. Others are really interested in that line of visibility and enabling them to see what cash is at risk because the invoice hasn't been delivered. And others are interested in that whole kind of cloud experience. So they want to move from on-premise software into cloud, and the PTX Connect can do that for you as well. So I'll just take a breather for a second before we move on.
And we'll close this poll out in about 5 more seconds here. And as those results compile, I can see preliminarily assurance is getting the most votes, followed by document processing and online presentation.
Okay. Thank you. So interesting to know that assurance, knowing that that customer has actually got the invoice or the document or purchase order. Purchase orders are really important as well. I know we've talked a lot about invoices, but purchase orders effectively is a request for goods or services that could be absolutely critical to your business. And many of our customers have talked about that as a critical document and wanting the ability to know that it's got to their suppliers so the goods are delivered as and when expected. So I'm going to move on now just to talk again about the types of benefits you can experience with PTX Connect. Offer there's that visibility into your cash positions and your documents, knowing that what status they're at any one time. The ability to optimize your document delivery. So we use PTX Connect at Bottomline. The first time we used it and we sent out our statements through PTX Connect, we saw that approximately 4% of those documents resulted in a failure. So having PTX Connect enables us to see that straight away and take that action. And of course, as we then go back to our Great Plains, which is what we use, and update those email addresses, we'd be expecting that 4% to improve over time. So again, you can uncover data trends. So as I showed you before, you can look at the behavior of your customers or suppliers, how they respond and react to those documents that you send out, to try and push them in the right direction if they need some encouragement to sort of pay quicker or process the document in time so that you can be paid when you need to be. The other point about this is that ability and audit trail. We've had lots of customers that really like that feature, to know that the document's been sent out and to see every action and interaction, to see that their customers have done something with it. Obviously, if there's a dispute and they're claiming they didn't get it and you can see that, that changes the nature of the conversation. And we hope as well, by having this new proactive way to approach your accounts receivables, that can help with reducing your days sales outstanding, your debt, and any costs associated with that. Obviously, this slide is quite targeted at invoicing, but again, this applies to all documents. I think having a place where your customers can get to your statements, your invoices, your credit notes, any price increasing letters, dunning letters, having that all in one place for your customers, we also feel is a really big benefit. Something that you won't have to worry about internally. Building that technology, you can use PTX Connect for. So I'm going to pass back to Andy now to tell us a little bit about Bottomline Technologies and what we're about. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew, for a very comprehensive insight to what we do and where we're getting very excited in how we can really add value and help our customers in the world that they expect today. Just to reiterate a couple of points from there and from the start. For us, it's essential we educate people that a document isn't just a piece of paper that we're creating for the fun of it. It's a request, it's an instruction, it's a notification. And if the recipient hasn't got it, frankly, they're not doing anything with it. You're not getting your goods supplied, or you're not going to get paid for those goods that you sold to them, that you shipped to them, that you're carrying the cost of internally within you. We're excited about being able to help customers in that arena. The second point that I'd reiterate is a lot of customers that we talk to, including our own internal credit control department, say, well, we manage our inbox on the email. We can see if it's not been delivered because we get a failure. Well, that's not the document. That's just the carrier. So the email's been delivered. That's a small part of the equation from it. We're actually looking at visibility and interaction on the document. Has the document been viewed and interacted with, as well as the email or the message that you're using to deliver those documents, which is significantly difficult. The third thing, I think we've mentioned a couple of times through there, insight and visibility. In today's world that is changing, we just expect to know now, real time, what's happening. I talk about this a lot when I talk to customers, but with the likes of Amazon, I order something from Amazon. I want to know that they've got my order. I can see it instantly. I want the confirmation. I want to know when they're going to ship it. I want to know that they have shipped it when they said they wanted to. I want to know that the delivery driver is going to deliver it to me today between 4 and 5 o'clock and what his name is. That's just the modern world. We expect that visibility and insight into our processes such that I haven't got to phone them up and say, well, is it coming? I expected it yesterday. Oh no, there was a delay. That's real-time information, and that consumer world is colliding with the business world. That is just what we expect today of everything that we're doing. So just a little bit wrapping up about Bottomline Technologies. For those of you that don't know us, we're a well-established global organization, over 10,000 customers around financial, payments, collections, transactions, the money movement around the world of payments, collections, ACH payments, check payments, BACS payments, SWIFT payments, all of those side of things, and the business processes around them. Over 1,500 employees around the world and growing every time we count. And we are a US NASDAQ listed company. We trade under the ticker of ePay, and a significant sizable revenue stream that make us well known and well established in the marketplaces that we play. More specifically in the Dynamics community, the Microsoft Dynamics community, this is a technology and a solution set that's very close to our heart, that we're very closely aligned with and support and carry the badges that you would expect an organization, service and software organization like ours to carry, and that we're very proud to be a part of. So within your Dynamics suite, we work very closely, we understand, we integrate with, we know that technology very well. That makes us a perfect accompaniment to go with the investment that you have made or you're thinking about making within your business. Final point with that, if anybody that's on the call was in New Orleans last week at Envision, then the picture on the bottom right, and you recognize one of the slides that we've used today in there. We were speaking and sponsoring at that event, which was a huge, exciting event for us. And again, reiterating a lot of the message that we're talking about, the transition to the cloud, the visibility, big data, all of that stuff that just resonates in everything that we see. For the European people attending the webinar today, we're also in Barcelona at Convergence, the top left picture on there. So the Microsoft Dynamics community is huge for us. You know, we've helped over 1,000 businesses in that community with their document creation, handling, and collaborative customer experience to date. And I've put including Bottomline Technologies on there. We're a user of our own technologies. We'd be crazy not to. We practice what we preach. We have a finance department. We're invoicing, we're shipping things all the time, so we use our technologies in there. And also the important point in there is we're a very happy Dynamics user. We've been a Great Plains business for many, many years. I've been in the organization 11 years. I think we've had Great Plains as long as I've been here. And we're on a journey as our business grows and scales and continues to, looking forward. We're on a journey of implementation for AX as well. So Dynamics remains at the heart of our business, as do the documents that it's creating that we need to share with our customers, suppliers, and partners on that. Finally, thank you. I appreciate that everybody is busy, taking time out of our busy schedules to listen, to watch, to hopefully learn. We appreciate your time with that. Hopefully you find the session useful. Hopefully you have learned something today. Our obligation is to tell you something, to share some information with you. Your obligation, and hopefully what you've achieved, is to listen and to learn something, even if it's just that one thing that you take away back to your business as to how you can change, how you can improve, how you can get more efficiency in your business. We have got a few minutes left, which was deliberate, so we're more than happy to take some questions as we go through the sessions. Outside of that, I appreciate some people are shy on these, but please use the chat function, and Jason will guide us through that. Please use the chat function if there are questions that you would like to run through, or in private on the slide there, our contact details if you want to come to us directly. As you think about and digest what you've heard today, then we're more than happy to take questions both now and in the coming days.
Yes, and as Andrew said, you can use either the Q&A or the chat that you should see to the right of the main slide window there to ask any questions. And Andy, I believe you're going to sort of field those for us.
Yes, I will do.
All right.
So just picking out one thing from there, though, just as I read that, so sorry, a little bit ad hoc as we go. And I'll point this out, so I'll be chairman, and I'll point them to Andrew because he's the guy that takes the difficult questions. So what is the setup process if I'm a Dynamics customer?
Okay, so good question. Obviously depends on what you're using as a current system to create your documents. So you may be using SSRS or Great Plains Report Writer, or you may be using a third-party product. But essentially what we do is once you sign up to TTX Connect, we register you, get an email, and then once you're logged in, you can then download a small piece of middleware that will sit on the server where your ERP or document process automation tool sits, and that will then take those documents and upload them into PTX Connect. So we take the document and we also take the metadata that you saw on the outbox grid and push it into PTX Connect, and then it's your choice whether you want those documents to be sent automatically or whether you want to log in and send them yourselves. It's a very frictionless, it's a very simple process. It may sound difficult, but actually we did that in Bottomline. We're using Great Plains. We did that within a couple of hours, start to end, and that also included time to sort of discuss which data we'd like mapped from the document to the outbox grid. For example, the reference fields you saw in that grid. What do we want to map to those?
That's great, thank you. And I can contest for our IT department and product department to get together and do something in 2 hours is something close to a miracle. Secondly, and probably I'll ask the question of Andrew again, but just some context from our customer base. We're processing in excess of £5.5 billion worth of transactions, of financial document transactions through PTX Connect today. So high volume going through that, a highly resilient 100% uptime on the service that comes through. But the question coming across, Andrew, is what type of failure rate do you typically see via PTX Connect? So can you give a perspective holistically as to...
I mean, on average, we're seeing about a 6% failure rate from all of our senders that are using PTX Connect, sending their documents out. We're seeing about a 6% failure rate. Obviously, when you first start using the application, that's when we tend to see a lot higher rates. So, as I mentioned before, Bottomline, we start using this, we saw quite a high failure rate. Usually customers, they're old customers, we haven't been invoicing them in a while, maybe the email has changed, or simple mistakes such as there's been a typo, and no one's actually corrected that because no one can actually see that the document never got there.
So just taking some context, that's great information on there. So, and I'm not clever enough to do the maths under pressure while we're on the webinar, but we processed £5.5 billion worth of transactions through. So just 6% of that is a huge figure. I know without using my fingers and toes to count what that is. That's a large number, a large value that isn't being processed, that you're not getting paid from. You know, if your business is a billion-dollar company and 6% aren't being delivered on running through, then straight away, you know, the impact of that on your business is huge. Just that 6%, and that 6% that aren't delivered, that's then, of those, the number that aren't being actioned early enough for you to get paid. So that becomes exponentially larger as that runs through.
That's an interesting point, Andy. Using it ourselves, we usually see that about 40 to 50% of documents are acted on really quickly, so they get actioned, and then it's the rest of the 50% that just seem to take forever to get processed at the recipient end.
So that's automating that, rather than being aggressive of chasing, that's automating that visibility and giving you that efficiency, labour-free way of driving us forward. Okay. Conscious we're running through, we want to make sure we finish on time. I think that's probably a good point to wrap up. As I said, please feel free to contact us directly with any questions outside of the mainstream group. We'd be more than happy to field those. We'll channel those into myself and Andrew and the team here to make sure we get a response to you very quickly. Outside of that, it just remains for me to again thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and I look forward to conversations with attendees in the future. Jason, anything we need to do to wrap up?
No, we will begin wrapping up. Please do look for a survey that will pop up as you depart today. We do appreciate that feedback. And we have recorded today's event, so be on the lookout for an update on that availability as well. With that, we will wrap up. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.